Most people who go to college can't wait to get out of dormitories. Not Adrienne Kisner. Kisner's novels feature strong female characters navigating the most challenging time in their lives, high school. Her debut novel, Dear Rachel Maddow, won a 2016 Penn New England Susan P. Bloom Discovery Award. Continuing with her second novel, The Confusion of Laurel Graham, it won a 2020 Green Earth Book Award for Young Adult Fiction. It was then followed by 6 Angry Girls, completing a trilogy of sorts of socially involved YA books. Librarians love her books, and readers agree.
And it's got a range of characters, and I feel like that's just always important to see.
So much girl power and feminism and smashing the patriarchy, and it's just like, it's so good, guys. It's intersectional, it's inclusive, it just makes me so happy.
I love reading her books. They don't make me exactly want to go back to high school, but it does make me think that being an adult is overrated.
We are thrilled to host this conversation with Adrienne Kisner on our Northwest Passages virtual stage.
Hello and welcome to Northwest Passages. I'm Kristi Burns with the Northwest Passages Book Club, coming to you virtually from here in the Spokesman-Review Spokane offices. Thrilled to speak today with Adrienne Kisner, the author of 6 Angry Girls. Ta-da!
Hello!
Hi! You are in Boston right now?
I am.
Loving it?
Yep. I've been here for a long time. I don't know who made that video, but that was with the dorm where I actually was a hall director.
Warren Hall. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Warren Towers.
Warren
yeah.
Towers. Nice. The idea of being around all of that stuff is just constant information or, inspiration, I should think, for your writing. But before we start about this, I'm one of these geeks that read inscriptions. I read footnotes in books. I read all of this stuff. So I walked into Wishing Tree Books, and this one just jumped out at me. Here in Spokane, we've got a couple of really fabulous independent bookstores. This one also is available at Auntie's as well, because I picked that up because my copy got murphed because it's going around the newsroom right now. It's very popular. It's true, Adrienne. You're a pretty big deal in Spokane.
You saw that, yeah.
No, of course. So the first book that you wrote, Dear Rachel Maddow, I have the collection now. And I should say, usually we like to raffle these books off at the end, but these books are actually going to the Lewis and Clark Library so that they have them. That's a high school here in Spokane, because they need to be there. I'm surprised they weren't there already. This one, to Na, Amanda, and Amy with all my heart. Okay. This one, you dedicated it to your mom. Not as many curse words in it. And then this one, right there, goes to Elizabeth Warren. How do you decide who to dedicate your books to?
Well, I would have dedicated Dear Rachel Maddow to my mother, but she said no. She's always given her candid opinion, her most candid opinion. And so I dedicated it to the 3 teachers, mentors at Vermont College of Fine Arts who sort of had a part in the book to various degrees. Like, they were the 3 people who have really helped out with it. So then I dedicated, although there's like a swear word on the first page of the bird book. But there are fewer. So I'm like, I don't know how many of these I'm actually going to publish. So I should probably get mom in there when I can. And then 6 Angry Girls, I felt like Elizabeth Warren was the person I wanted to send it to. And this was before she was still in the running for the Democratic nomination. And I don't know, people accused her of being too angry. And I don't see that as a bad thing.
No.
I don't know if you can say that it's true, but yeah.
everybody's out there to smash the patriarchy. It's all okay. You grew up in Pennsylvania. Is your mom from Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Yeah, so's mine.
She's still there.
Eastern or Western Pennsylvania? Because there's a difference.
Oh yeah, I know. I went to college in Eastern PA, but I grew up in Johnstown. Yeah.
Moms from Pennsylvania are special. Thanks, Mom.
Thanks. I mean, technically, I'm a mom from Pennsylvania. So.
Well, yeah. Can you ever really leave? That's actually a question my sisters and I discuss all the time. Is Mom really, out of Pennsylvania? Your family's still there?
Yeah. We're like, my son had to do a genealogy project, and I don't know if I'm frozen on the screen, but I'm frozen on mine. Okay, good. My son had to do a genealogy project, and we go back like 6, 7, 8 generations to Pennsylvania. There's some Amish in there. We're very Pennsylvanian people. And yeah, she's still there, still in Johnstown. All of my books are set in Western Pennsylvania. If I talk long enough, my accent will come out. Maybe it does anyway.
Yeah, you've been in Boston long enough. You're not gonna, start packing the cat, having a pop, or any of that. That's not affected you at BU.
I've never heard anybody say pop, but but there, yeah. I mean, the priest at the church where my son was, well, both of my kids were baptized. He has a very, very thick Boston accent, and he had all the little kids like bless the babies, and his name's Charles, and he's like Charles, Char. Yeah.
No.
So he's always, every week I'm like, that guy. It cracks me up.
No, that is true. There's no Well, the characters in Six Angry Girls, which actually, if you're watching right now, you can actually poke through on a link up above us, the 2 Wishing Tree books, where they have them, stacked up at the front. They are our partner with our new YA launch of book club. So when, again, like I said, so thrilled to be able to look at that book there and go, oh my gosh, look at that beautiful book with these fabulous characters on the cover. I love that they were all, as was said, intersectional, representational of everyone. How let's talk about the characters in the book. Don't pick a favorite. I know you can't, but I won't hold this up the entire time. But talk about the characters and there's this crushing senior year that Raina was ready to take on.
Well, I do have a fondness for each of them. Nikita is the tallest, and she's the one with the bubble gum.
Mm-hmm.
She's named after one of my RAs who wanted to be a villain.
Yes.
And she's very, very kind and gentle human. And I thought it was kind of funny that she would be a villain. So I'm like, and things that are around me when I'm writing often make it into the book. And so Nikita happened to walk in, and she said these things. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll name someone after you. So beware if you.
Well, I think we should. We probably. I haven't mentioned. It was referenced earlier in the introduction that you live in dormitories. Well, that's because you were. You tell the people.
Well, I am a hall director. I just kind of stayed. I just never left.
Yeah.
People were like, well, Meg Cabot was a hall director, and then she wrote The Princess Diaries. I'm like, yeah, she was. I am a hall director. Who am I? I'm not a hall director.
I'm not growing out of it. This is what I'd like to do, and this is my calling.
I do I teach writing, and I've always had it's just been a wonderful experience. I was an RA in college, and then I came to BU for grad school, and I was an RA and a graduate art resident assistant here. And then I was a hall director at Wheelock College, may it rest in peace, which then merged with University. So I came back. And we just moved a couple months ago, and I was tearing through the closet looking for my books, like my own books. I was like, I should have done this sooner, but I didn't. And now we're not in Warren Towers anymore. We're on the other. Actually, we're back in West Campus where I started.
Nice.
As a grad. Yeah, I'm like, I haven't really gone very far. So, I have I've lived with first year students for the longer than they have been alive.
Well, and that's what also very interesting perspective for, you're on the other side of this whole the college stress of senior year. You see how that plays out in real life. But okay, so back to Nikita and naming your characters.
Well, yeah, and then everybody else, I don't know. I mean, Millie is probably the one I identify most with, mostly because I'm like offended at the end of the day. I'm like, I have to feed people. I have worked all day. I don't know. There's a pandemic and people need to have dinner. I'm like, why is this my responsibility?
Isn't there a dining hall, a cafeteria somewhere you can just send them?
Yeah, actually. And certain people who won't be named, who are related to me, they're over it. They're over the cafeteria. And I'm like, really?
No.
Because yeah, and then they expect me to like make something else. I'm like, you want a salad bar? We're gonna go downstairs.
There you go.
We don't have to leave. Yeah, we do that occasionally.
Yeah, I like that. It is, adulthood is overrated. I would like to go back to that. And I would love to live in this book, truly. But that's back to characters.
I've heard, I read an article where people were talking about Mad Men and how adults are celebrated. I'm like, oh yeah, they're living their best lives in Mad Men. Everybody's super happy, super, yay. No, thank you. So I was in mock trial, and
in high school, really?
Oh yeah, please. Yeah. I was in forensics, speech. I was in theater. I was theater club president, and I had to share it with a guy named Kirk, and we were very competitive. He was in forensics. Kirk was in everything.
Has Kirk read this book?
I truly doubt it.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a long time. And I was in college. I did like the literary magazine, and I always wanted to write a character who was like a go-getter and super competitive, but for whatever reason couldn't compete in her sport. And so that's how she kind of gets sucked into the team, like the assembling of Ocean's 11 only,
Yeah.
So that's where Veronica came from. And Grace is kind of balances Millie out. She's really, really intense. And then Izzy, I was like, I can't have too many new girls coming to this school because people, matriculate into places. But it really was sort of a matter of having an ensemble cast. And Raina and Millie are really the focal point. It's really their story. And, if it were written from two other perspectives, it would be a different book. But they're the two that brought everybody together and sort of had the greatest motivation to pursue this. Mm-hmm. And when I was writing it, it surprised me that, I didn't envision Raina not liking theater. Like I sort of saw her triumphing and ending up going to the program that she wants and, doing all that. But instead it, sometimes characters do their own thing. And it's like, no, this isn't what she wanted. She was always sort of doing it for somebody else. And Millie was doing it for herself, but almost not really. It was always kind of like she was in the background and willing to do these things, but she learned to go out on her own and be herself,
which is a great what to see this depicted in a book where it's not just a girl that's going to go do anything for her boy, like the Brandon thing. I personally have teenagers, and so I hadn't actually connected with YA books since I was in that age group, I guess. One of my coworkers here at the Spokesman said, well, no, Kristi, I even read it because, it's great to read. You can escape and you're just taken back to this other place. It's not just for a YA audience. And I was like, really? And then I picked it up and I wanted to live in this book. I wanted to be kind of in this kind of high school. So my question is regarding the depictions of the situations and how accepting everybody is, particularly with, gay characters and questioning characters and lesbians being able to just ask their girlfriend to prom. Okay, you're closer to it than I am. Is that kind of stuff really happening? Please tell me it is. I want it to.
I don't know that I'm that close, technically. I write about a place I like to think of as mythic Pennsylvania. It's sort of an amalgam of my youth and memory and stuff I make up for convenience sake, and some things that are still there. I mean, Sheets is in every book, and so is Smiley Cookies.
Yeah.
Park, because I don't know. To me, that's just like iconic, and they're still there. There are things that are there, and I have an unhealthy love of Sheets. It's a gas station for those who don't know, but they have food that starts with the letters SH, like schmuffins or bagels.
So Pennsylvania.
Yeah, very Pennsylvania. And I'm like, I don't know. I kind of lived in the inspiration for this book, and I don't know if I'd want to live there. If anything, I'm sort of working through having lived there in the books.
Nice.
And so, I mean, I'd like to think that we've come a ways, but I don't think it's quite where it is in my books.
We are also taking questions from the audience that's watching right now. If you are watching and have a question, you can submit it on the form that is right on this side of me. I'm not sure where it is on the live. However, but I did, question just came in from Kevin. You write in first person. What do you like about it?
It's easier to be in someone's head, I think, like one person's head. Mm-hmm. And Six Angry Girls was my first dual POV, and it had, two heads, and, are they that different? They are and they aren't. Millie is really, she has her little meditations, and she just tries to like take on the world, and Raina is just sort of very dramatic, and she's even in her own mind, she knows that she's being ridiculous, but she just can't help it because that's who she is.
That's who she is. She's drama.
Yeah. So, I mean, if even with a close third, you can't, close third POV, you can't really get that as much as you can in first.
One of the really cool things that I appreciate about your writing, but particularly with Six Angry Girls, was the chapter headings. I like reading the beginnings and the ends and the footnotes and all that stuff. So I skimmed through the chapters and I was like, oh, look, it's just they're case numbers. They're just case numbers. That's all they are. Whatever. So I kind of like glossed over it. And I don't know when I realized, when it must have been by chapter 4, but probably wasn't, that each one of the case numbers is almost like a vanity plate. Where it spells stuff out. Let me find one. It's just so great. Chapter 4. I think it must have been chapter 4. Scanning. Huh. NOT boys 5. So it's like those little details in here is great. Those inside jokes there. What other inside joke? Well, Smash the Patriarchy isn't really a inside joke, but that is an overarching theme throughout here of guys doing girls wrong and finding their voices. Did you, with your background, everybody likes to ask, oh, how much of it is you? But how much of that did you, do you find that still needs to be addressed in this age group? I mean, with the kids that you have right now, kids meaning who you're in charge of at the residence hall. Do you get a lot of complaints about, the
patriarchy?
Yeah, and being mansplained to, and how are we ever going to change this?
So since I attended Boston University many years ago, and now it has really sort of become more elite than, like, I don't know. It was kind of I live in West Campus. It's like it was the Wild West, although it still has a vibe now. If you're going to live on campus, everyone at Boston University, West Campus has the energy.
I have relatives that are BU grads, so yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So they're thinkers and they're doers, and my resident assistants, of whom I've had many, I've supervised, they go on and they join the Peace Corps and they become lawyers and doctors and teachers and social workers and all these things. And so I'd say most of them want to sort of make a difference in the world, and many of them who are not, say, cisgendered white men, feel that much needs to be changed. All the things, and I can't say that I'm in disagreement with that. I will say, if I'm going to send these to the bookstore, so if you order the book, and I don't know if it would cost more money to send out, but I have these, or you could go to the book. These are the stickers for my book. They're little knitting needles. My friend Renee designed them, so I'm going to send those.
Thank you.
Also, knitting.
Perfect.
And the piece de resistance. These are little pins. I got to find them because we moved, but they're little angry pins with yarn. So.
Yep. As you say, not to give away the ending of the book, but the end last few lines of the book, I believe, are, if you think you are an angry girl, you are one. Own it. And I have to appreciate that for sure. With the knitting theme, though, you knit. I understand from your website. Check out her website if you haven't already, that you are an intermittent knitter. What was the word actually you used about your knitting prowess?
I'm more enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic.
Yes.
So are you one of those knitters that will just knit over your mistake, or do you actually rip everything out if you've seen that it's there?
No, I keep going. I don't even knit over it. I just leave holes. Like, I've made scarves for people and they have holes in them. I'm like, I can't cope with the idea of going back. And that's all I can really make after
scarves?
Years. Yes. So I started, like, when I was trying not to write. Well, I do a lot of that, but before I'd have even written, my first book, Dear Rachel Maddow was the fourth I'd written, but it was my debut. So before any of that, I was taking knitting at the Boston Center for Adult Education, and I was in this class, and I came with a skein of yarn, and I didn't know you had to put it in a ball in order. And they're like, oh, so I spent most of the first class putting the yarn in a ball, and then the rest of it I spent being utterly unable to cast on at all. It was just that whole knot thing. It was a mystery to me, and I was dejected. And so I left. And the Boston Center for Adult Education used to be in this beautiful brownstone near the garden, and it's like 5 floors, and it had a spiral staircase so you could see down to the bottom. I left, and I walked down the stairs, and I walked down the stairs. It was like, oh, I'm a failure. I'm going to have to come back, and I'm not even going to know how to cast on. I'm going to practice at home. And then, so I walked out the door, and then I got stuck. Like, my bag jerked back, and I'm like, what the heck is happening? So I go inside, and there's in my bag are my needles, like, caught in the thing. And I'm like, what? And I go back in, and I dropped the ball of yarn top the stairs, and I had walked, and it had unwound as I had gone down, and there was someone at the top, like, holding it. They're like, is this yours? So literally I got my scissors out, I cut the string, and I ran, and I never went back. Even though I paid never went back. So then I got a klutz book, like, for children, and that's what taught me to knit. And I think it's like birding. I love birds. I love birding. I'm the worst birder in the world. I can't identify more than a nuthatch.
I don't have the one with the sticker, though. I get the sticker for that one.
I can send some of the. I have stickers. And, like, I never see, if I go on these little tours, they're like, okay, at 6:00, there is Kirkland's warbler. I'm like, oh, what? Where is this? And I don't know if everyone's lying because they don't want to,
they don't want to be the only one. They want to let you be the only one.
For like 6 months, I had these rings on my binoculars, and someone adjusted it for me, and I was like, whoa. I still couldn't see the birds, but I didn't see the ring anymore. So this is I view it as a celebration of doing things badly for the sake of having fun. So you don't, need to be have a life list. Well, I mean, so, and if you
Really
are
long,
that kind of murder,
long scarves for everybody.
yeah, with holes in them. Maybe it's like a glove situation. So yes, you don't have to be the best or even good at something to do it for the sake of doing it. And there's a lot of that in but like Bryn, who's the main character of Dear Rachel Maddow, does not want to be involved. She doesn't want to, go outside of her comfort zone, but she's just incensed by the injustice that she's sort of compelled into it. And Laurel Graham, she's going to put herself out there. She's obsessed with birds, and I sort of, all of my characters are much cooler than I am, and more, I don't know, they step outside themselves more, and they get out of their own ways far better than I do.
Well, Jen actually has that question. She submitted it. Which character is most like you and why? So if you're saying that your characters that you develop as your main characters are the antithesis of what you want to be, who's most...
I don't know. They're certainly not my antithesis, but they're who I aspire.
Oh, who
to
you
be.
aspire to.
Millie's up there, and books that never seen the light of day. That has a lot of those characters have a lot of me in them, but no one will ever know.
Now, do you write? Are you, when you say books that nobody will ever see? So you have a certain joy in writing, or is joy the right word, of writing to write and get it out there? If I understand correctly, you getting into the MFA program in Vermont was not, what you thought your destiny exactly was.
No, it was probably Jen who asked the question. I do happen to have a Jen who's a writing partner.
Yes, it would be Jen.
Yeah. She's like, we should get MFAs. And I'm like, or no, actually, she said I should get an MFA. And I'm like, why? I have a doctorate. I don't need an MFA.
How many degrees do you have, Adrienne?
I have 3 grad degrees.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Jen talked me into this. So I applied, and I was like, well, if I'm applying, you need to apply. And she's like, well, all right, I'm not going to get it. I'm like, yeah, you've published like 5 books. They want our money. Not life-changing, love it, but let's be honest, graduate education. So of course we both got in, and we didn't even understand the program. Like, we're driving up there for our first residency, and I'm like, what is this? What are we doing? What is this even? What do we do here? And she's like, I don't know. We had like workshop materials, and then I'm like, Jen, I think we have to go to 5 residencies. Like, it's low residency, so you go, we thought it was 4 times, but it was 5. And it didn't really dawn on us until like deposits were paid that this was a thing. And it ended up being one of the best things I've ever done. Granted, it was expensive for how great it was, but I met friends, and I had wonderful mentors who really got me to that I could finish and then revise a book. I had written novels, and it's not like I'm embarrassed by them. I'm just like, no, everybody should read these, to the point where I like put one out on the internet. I'm like, here, you want to read this book that people who would publish them, they aren't really into it, but I was like, here, read it.
So you e-published before you got you landed a deal?
No. This was actually
part of your exercise.
Like a couple months ago that I put this out. Dear Rachel Maddow was my first. Yeah, that was my debut, and that was the first book that I had published.
I loved reading it as just as the being able to write. Oh, that's the wrong book. I'm like, no, that's journals. That's not what it is. The computer aspect of just being able to write a letter, write an email, all of those being saved in draft. I really felt that you got a huge insight into Bryn's life, into the struggles that were going on, and the fact that she wanted to, or they had a teacher that was making her write it, but then actually sent something. And I believe that Rachel Maddow herself is aware of this title. And I saw on your Instagram, it was even in the background at SNL at one point.
Nice moment.
Yeah, that was a good day for a lot of YA authors
Yeah.
because there's a whole shelf, and there's like something we call writers call doom scrolling, where if there's like a list of best of,
Yep.
you go through it and then you're not on it and then you're caught in existential despair. It's a really fun game.
Oh.
It's not
I don't
fun.
think that you've been able to play that very often recently, particularly in the LGBTQ genre. Your book over the last year has been on all of the must read, very much anticipated, look forward to. And that's kind of cool.
It is, I'm honored to be on lists, but there's a million of them, and there's always going to be a lot that you're not on. And anyway, so I was looking at everybody was like, oh, there's all these books on the RuPaul skit on SNL, and somebody else's book was there. So I was like looking through the shelves, and I'm like, there she is. I see her. And I don't know if Rachel Maddow has read it. I don't know if I could cope with the idea that she has, but she is aware that it exists, and she hasn't sued me. So solid.
That is
Rachel.
good. That is excellent. Can we talk about the frenemy situation in Six Angry Girls and how that friendship played out, particularly how you were able to structure that? I don't think we're giving anything away by calling Raina a frenemy of Millie's, because they were buddies at one point.
Yeah, they weren't. I mean, if anyone are frenemies, it's probably Claire, who's not on the cover, and Raina. They're like arch nemesis, and Millie's best friend is Claire. So Millie was always sort of like removed from Raina. Raina was with Brendan, who
hate that. Any girl that wants to be a boyfriend, or, identifies herself with a boyfriend, the boyfriend dumps her, and then that's it. I was like, oh, no, come back up. And she did.
And the whole, that whole thing, I don't know if the whole book, because I wanted to write a mock trial book, but I did an event with Meredith Goldstein, who does love letters with the Boston Globe, like the column. And I was like, listen, I don't know how you talk to these people aren't like, you know what? You should be reasonable. That's what I think you should. That's my advice to you. Be reasonable. So
you gave advice to her, the advice
columnist.
I was also
a chaplain. Yeah. So I'm really good at my job.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you can't really say. I was like, you know what you should tell people to do is get a hobby. Yeah. Get over that loser and learn to knit. And I was like, can I use that? I'm going to put that in a book. And she's like, yeah, sure. Do that. I'm like, and so I did.
That ties into the next follow-up question, though, as to when you learned how to knit, how did you find that your knitting circle that you then launch into, that they find and learn how to knit and get power from this older generation of doers and ready to make change? I don't know if there is such a knitting circle in Spokane, but the knitters that I know are crazy smart, and they're doers, and they make bleep happen.
I'm confident that you have a local yarn store. If not,
of course, yes.
And I think that is where if you want, seek out community there. That's more aspirational in my own life. There used to be a store in, I think it's Cambridge or Somerville here near Boston, and they sold scrapbooking materials, yarn, and beads. And I loved that place. It was, man.
Are you a beader too?
Well, again, I've gone through several hobbies and
scrapbooking, beading, knitting.
I try all this stuff, and then I like looking at it, and then I'm like, it's so pretty, I'll ruin it. I can't do anything. But I did make. I was probably better at jewelry than I am at anything else. Probably because it was easier to. It's easier to do. I mean, I'm not doing like advanced metalworking here. No. I'm just things. And there was a great store. I don't know if it's still open, actually. The COVID that just did beading, and you could take little classes. So again, when I was in my phase of, there's no way I'm going to be a writer for real. I don't know, whatever that meant in my head.
I mean, you wanted to be a writer from the time you were a child. you know?
I did.
So,
Yeah.
it was pretty much in your destiny to do it. So Jen was good in talking you into going to the MFA program. Jen and I have never met. I've not been told to tell you that.
Well, she's great. Here, I have her book, everybody. It comes out soon. It's Fix by J. Albert Mann. And I met her when she was writing this, and I'm not exactly sure of how many years ago it was, but I had babies, and now I have tweens. So it was a while ago.
Yeah.
And I started this book. I started the Green Line Critique Group, and I lasted for about a month because I had babies. I don't know why I thought that was good. I was like, I'm going to have time now. Yeah. Sure. Good luck with that. Actually,
Been
I
there,
think I
done
was
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was still doing my doctorate too. I don't know. It was whatever. And then I quit after like 2 months, but they kept going, and I would see her at book events, and I'd be like, oh, I should go talk to her. And then I couldn't for like a year, which looking back is ridiculous because she's very kind and good. But it was, and I should credit her with keeping me going, because I started writing with her, and then, and after years we went to VCFA, and if not for her, I keep knitting because I don't care if I'm any good, but writing, I really wanted, that was the thing I wanted to do. I don't know if I was destined to do it, but I was certainly compelled to do so. And so I'm glad it worked out, I guess, the way that it did.
Well, we have another couple questions coming in here, which kind of works with what you're talking about now. Pardon me, I'm not looking away from you. My computer's over there. Maybe I should move it right there. Oh, you can't see it on camera if I put it right there. Ha ha. From Jesse, how does an adult write for and about teens? Can you really put yourself in that frame of mind, and are you in danger of growing out of it? You just said you had tweens. I think you're going to have material for quite some time. But putting yourself in that frame of mind.
I wrote a book called The Miller's Tower Sea, based completely on my own children, and they're the only ones who've read it, but it's about two kids who grow up in a dorm because they've always lived in a dorm. And I'm like, and we're at Wheelock, it was a teacher's college, and they've had a lot of papers written about them because students would procrastinate and they needed small children to observe, so they'd always observe mine because they were the only ones there. And there is a body of work out there and I don't know, maybe they're going to move off campus when they're freshmen just to do something different.
To go to move it off campus to be a freshman at another college that's not one that their mother was at. Yeah.
Yeah. Although I'm like, you could probably go a lot cheaper here. So.
Tuition. Yeah.
I don't know that there is any danger of me failing to identify with my teenage self, for good or for ill. I mean, in my mind, I'm like 12 to 16. I'm still in there, and I was, again, I do have to make my own dental appointments and make dinner for other people regularly.
Adulthood is overrated, man.
Buy other people's shoes because they're always growing out of it. But like mentally, I'm like, ooh, here's a unicorn tape dispenser. It shall be mine. And again, then I now have a job, and arguably I shouldn't be buying unicorn tape dispensers, which I do have, but they're in my office.
It's an important thing to collect. It's important to have a collection. It's important to have a hobby.
Yeah,
it was really
exactly.
The way that you were able to, though, integrate that into the movement of these being, of socially aware, working for change with the knitting kind of thing, even though that's an aspirational kind of thing. I think it's a really cool do-gooders thing, a really cool impetus for change, and especially within the way that it plays within Six Angry Girls. Really very nicely done.
Thanks.
With what I also appreciated was the fact that there were it wasn't like in a Disney movie where like the adults die at the beginning and the kids are all on their own. The adults that are in this book also have I felt were really real, and that weren't there was relationships that were fantastic, like librarians. I'm a huge fan of librarians. So when the librarian comes to save the day in mock trial, which forgive me, I don't quite know the difference between mock trial and forensics and debate. I think that they're all about the same thing. No, I'm gonna get a slap down now. But back to the adults of being so cool in there and real. the parents that aren't always your foe. Millie's mom was actually rooting for her a lot, even though she wasn't there, while Millie's dad was using her as a babysitter. The uninvolved parent. I think there was a reference at one point, an uninvolved parent tax, that Millie was like taking advantage of that in a lot of ways
Yeah.
to grow. But I thought that was real.
Well, in books, especially that have kids, even older kids, kids don't necessarily have a lot of agency if they are well cared for. I mean, you can have freedom and be well cared for. But it's not like, and actually, I'm sort of experimenting with this adult novel with the idea that if the mom doesn't die at the beginning, there's no way that somebody's going out to save the world. It's like, no, you're going to go to bed, you're going to study, you're going to eat your peas, and you're going to leave the saving of the world to someone else, because mortal peril and me do not mix. But yeah, so you kind of have to shove them to the side a bit. They have to work too much, or they have to have their own stuff going on, or you kill them. Yeah. But I was like, I'm not. Yeah, as a mother, no mothers are harmed in the making of these books. And well, they're more than, well, they get to be alive anyway. So there's always a chance for redemption.
Well, but they live through disappointment. They live through things that are not that you think would be life ending, or that situations that are, again, for lack of a better word, real. I mean, they're contemporary. The situations that are discussed in Six Angry Girls, in Dear Rachel Maddow, even in The Confusion of Laurel Graham, particularly maybe this one, but they're all not some fantasy thing, unless it's mythical Pennsylvania. But yeah, this is all rooted in the real world, which was just, it's dynamite. I know I didn't have. I mean, aside from Judy Blume, there wasn't anything like this with such breadth that included everybody when I was growing up. And I read just about anything I would get my hands on. I loved the Scholastic Book Fairs. I would live for those when I was in elementary school and junior high. And then bookstores have always been my favorite places. But yeah, I think that young adult fiction has really come into its own, I would say, over the last 10, 15 years. It's my opinion. Since you've been writing, it's really gotten so much better.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I did have a Star Trek novel phase in 8th grade, but I was always sort of a big fan of a Babysitter's Club and all of those things, like Sleepover Friends. I have a book about these series from the 80s, and I cherish them. And like R.L. Stine and Fear Street and Christopher Pike and all those, they were just really great. And then you had things like Robert Cormier, who, and I don't actually know how to say the man's name because I've only ever seen it in print, but
that means you're a reader.
The Chocolate War, and these very dark existential books that I like. Yeah, they were dark and literary and sort of rocked my world. I don't know if I'd choose to read them because they're so dark existentially, but they really serve a purpose, and they speak to a lot of different kind of readers. So I think that it's always been it's for years and years and years, there's been really cool things happening in books for younger readers. And people might think that it's easier to write for kids, or it's somehow lesser, but I don't think that at all. I think kids are very attentive, and they love what they love, and they will call you out on things that they don't. If you go somewhere they don't, they're like, no, I didn't like that, you'll know. And in praise of librarians, Connie McClain is a real human, and I named her after the high school librarian who did our mock trial / forensic /
Nice.
student confidence. And someone told her about it, and she emailed me. She's like, oh, thanks, because I didn't know she'd like the swearing, because my mother actually volunteered for her in the library in my youth. So, but she was, I guess she was happy. So that's it. That's all I need. I've peaked there. Miss McClain was happy to be in a book. Yes.
Well, here's the thing too, though, with your books, you keep like referencing, well, the swearing kind of thing. Swearing is not, it's not, it's justified. I didn't think it was like there weren't too many. I thought all of the appropriate words were used in appropriate places. It was real language. It was real dialogue. Yeah, you're not looking for all of it. It's not a ton of it. It's just all appropriate.
Not in Six Angry Girls. In Dear Rachel Maddow, like that's what kind of how Brynn like expresses her anger. She doesn't exactly have, again, much agency or much societal power, so she is just vulgar throughout.
I didn't think it was horrible. I didn't think it was horrible.
And in my own mind, Jen, the writing part,
you were mortified.
I chuckle. I laugh at myself, so I don't know if I amuse anyone else, but I certainly amuse myself. And every time she'd say things like that, like she'd make up new combinations of swear words, it really amused me. So if you're ever like, why did she do this? Oh, and I read, there was a review once where I frustrated people for making up towns in Pennsylvania, but that's also to amuse me. I am well aware that they're not real. This is mythic Pennsylvania, but I think it's really funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We've got time for a couple more questions before we wrap things up here. But this is just a hoot. I could talk to you forever. Well,
I can give you my number.
The genre is really, hey, chat. Keep making. I know the next book. Well, I'm serious.
My number, actually, I emailed it.
I have it. There's a question here from Grace asking, taking in all of your books, what is your favorite secondary plot point?
I don't know if birding is the secondary plot point or the first plot. I guess like it's really about Laurel and her
grandmother,
her family, and activism. But the birding piece, when I was growing up, my people around me had the phrase of like throw a duck fit, and I got to use that in Laurel Graham because she was a birder and there were literal ducks having a fit, and that pleased me greatly. So I think that was probably my favorite.
All right. The another question coming in, Jesse asks, could you write a boy-centric book?
I could, I think. I wrote a short story with a boy character who I liked a lot, and it was him and his brother. But I mean, why? Boys are great. I have a boy, I have a son. But that is not a perspective or a gaze that is lacking in representation.
Good
so
point.
I don't know that I need to add to the canon there.
Yeah, no. And that's, again, the strong, the powerful women, the girls, they're growing up, all of the things that happen or could happen in high school to girls and how they smash the patriarchy. It's in this one. I gotta get the right Six Angry Girls. The other question, one of the fun questions that we have here, what are you currently reading?
I have a big stack. Well, Fix by J. Albert Mann.
Yes, there's that one. As we are like the books. This is called Book TV here on the Spokesman-Review live team.
I'll tell you what's next to me on my desk. I have a fitness coach, God bless her. She's long suffering and wonderful. Kim Lloyd.
Wow.
Start where you are. This is for about lifting for people who don't lift. And actually I have another mythical one somewhere. This is Burnout, The Secret of Unlocking the Stress Cycle. And this is about how women do all this stuff.
You knit. And, you knit to get over the stress. That's the knitting. That's the very long scarf.
Yeah, that's the very long scarf. It's true. There's a lot. And although you're not wrong, did you read the book? Did you read that? It's a good read. But for my adult novel, which is about former women who were former teen heroes, I thought this was, it's very useful in life, but it's kind of good for that perspective as well. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading right now.
Are you to end everything then? what are you working on next?
You know, with the pandemic, I've been working on my Animal Crossing island. I don't know if
What?
it's I have a 5-star island. I've almost caught all the bugs and fish.
Wow. Is this a Survivor app?
No, it's a very peaceful game with animals, and I have really, really gone to town. Literally, we developed a town, and I mean, my kids are on there too. But I've paid off their houses. I've done a lot. I'm very wealthy on my island. In terms of writing, I guess that's what. And I've started 4 different books. At the moment, I'm working on one that is a murder thriller set in a dormitory, and the RAs are trying to solve these crimes of a serial killer. I might be working through some stuff there.
You might be. Yeah, the RAs really want to get named after them in this one. Yeah.
No. FERPA. It's against the law. But it's like COVID was the killer.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, we end every Northwest Passages book club with a raffle. Everybody that has registered for tonight, that I sent a little email to reminder to tune in, is registered to win, and I usually have it to hold up, but I don't have it today. It is this amazing print of the Spokesman-Review Tower, which, Adrienne, you will see when you come visit us actually out here in Spokane, which I really hope when this is all over that we can get you here live in person and take you up into the tower and get you a copy of this fabulous print that I have on a wheel of names that I'm going to put my computer up to the screen. And that person, although I have to tell you, I still haven't been able to figure out how to send them. I've been dropping them off. But here is the wheel of names. I hit play over here, I think. There we go. Wheel of names. Who's going to win today? Eileen! Yay! We take our book club very seriously. And especially the YA. But thank you very much for coming virtually to us from the dorm over in the cool west side of the BU.
Yeah, close enough.
West End, where it's still going on. We have more updates coming in for April as to what authors and books we will be featuring on our website at spokesman.com/Northwest Passages. Thank you again, Adrienne Kisner. 6 Angry Girls, plenty of other books also available. Buy local, tune in, and join us for our next Northwest Passages event. Thank you.
Yay, thank you.